In 1985, the world saw a moment that few people truly understood at the time. A young man, barely 30 years old, was quietly pushed out of the company he had created. That man was Steve Jobs. To the public, it looked like a simple corporate decision. Inside, it was a personal collapse that would change the future of technology forever. Steve Jobs was never meant to live a normal life. From childhood, he questioned everything. He was adopted, grew up feeling different, and always searched for meaning beyond money or comfort. He wasn't interested in fitting in. He wanted to build something that mattered. That desire would later become both his greatest strength and his biggest weakness. In the mid-1970s, Jobs partnered with Steve Wozniak to build computers that ordinary people could use. They worked from a garage, driven by curiosity and belief rather than experience. Jobs saw computers not as machines, but as tools for creativity. When they founded Apple, he imagined a future where technology felt personal, simple, and beautiful. The Apple II changed everything. Sales exploded. The company grew faster than anyone expected. Jobs became rich and famous at an age when most people are still figuring out life. With that success came an intense sense of confidence. Jobs began to believe deeply that his instincts were always right. But success has a cost. Inside Apple, Jobs created an environment of extreme pressure. He demanded perfection. He rejected work harshly. He pushed people emotionally and mentally. Some employees said working with him was the most inspiring experience of their lives. Others said it was unbearable. Jobs believed that only pressure could produce greatness. In 1984, Apple launched the Macintosh. The product was revolutionary. It introduced a graphical user interface, icons, and a mouse to the mainstream. It felt like the future. But the market didn't respond the way Apple hoped. The Mac was expensive, slow, and limited by software. Sales were disappointing, and competitors were catching up quickly. As pressure mounted, Apple's board began to worry. They saw Jobs as brilliant but reckless. They wanted stability. They wanted predictable leadership. Jobs himself supported hiring an experienced executive, believing he could still control the creative direction. That executive was John Sculley. At first, Jobs and Sculley worked together. But their values clashed almost immediately. Jobs cared about vision. Sculley cared about structure. Jobs wanted to take risks. Sculley wanted to protect the company. Over time, trust turned into conflict. Jobs became increasingly isolated. His decisions felt impulsive. His behavior worried the board. When Macintosh sales continued to struggle, Jobs was blamed. Feeling cornered, he attempted to remove Sculley from power by convincing the board behind his back. The move failed. Instead of removing Sculley, Jobs exposed his own position. The board made a decision that shocked the tech world. Steve Jobs was removed from all operational roles. He no longer led any teams. He no longer controlled any products. He had an office, but no power. For Steve Jobs, it was devastating that he later described this period as public humiliation. The company he loved no longer wanted him. The press portrayed him as unstable. People whispered that Apple had grown up by pushing him out. Jobs felt lost, angry, and ashamed. For months he struggled with identity. If he wasn't Apple, who was he? Eventually he made a choice. Instead of quitting, he would begin again. Later that year, Jobs founded Next. This time, he wanted to build something perfect, without compromise. Next computers were stunning, powerful, and advanced. But they were also extremely expensive. Schools admired them but couldn't afford them. Sales were weak. Financial losses piled up. To the outside world, it looked like another failure. But inside Next, something important was happening. The operating system they built was far ahead of its time. It was stable, flexible, and powerful. Though Next struggled as a hardware company, its software quietly became one of the most important developments in modern computing. At the same time, Jobs made another risky decision. He bought a small animation unit from Lucasfilm. He renamed it Pixar. For years, Pixar failed to make money. Jobs invested his own fortune to keep it alive. Advisors told him to walk away. He refused. Pixar struggled, but it learned. Then in 1995, Pixar released Toy Story. It became the first fully computer-animated feature film. The movie was a global success. Overnight, Pixar transformed animation, and Steve Jobs returned to the spotlight, not as a computer executive, but as a creative visionary. While Jobs was rebuilding himself, Apple was slowly collapsing. Without clear direction, Apple released too many products. Leadership changed constantly. Innovation faded. Losses grew. By the mid-1990s, Apple was close to bankruptcy. The company that once rejected Steve Jobs now needed him to survive. In 1996, Apple bought Next. Officially, it was for software. Unofficially, it was an invitation. With that deal, Steve Jobs returned to Apple. At first, he came back quietly, then as interim CEO. Eventually, he took full control. But this was not the same man. He had been humbled. He had failed publicly. He had learned patience. Jobs simplified Apple's product line, cut unnecessary projects, and rebuilt focus. He demanded excellence, but with clarity rather than chaos. The iMac saved Apple. The iPod changed music. The iPhone reshaped communication. Each product carried lessons learned from failure. Steve Jobs once said that being fired from Apple was the best thing that ever happened to him. Success had made him rigid. Failure made him curious again. What looked like the end of his story was actually the beginning. This is what happened when Steve Jobs was fired from Apple. Before becoming a legend,